Hello, everyone. I am Joshua William Gelb, and welcome to Theater in Quarantine. It's Thursday, May 20th, and it's 7 o'clock here in New York City. It's been a little over a year since I converted the closet behind me into Theater in Quarantine, and along with my collaborators and co-creative director, Katie Rose McLaughlin, I want to say thank you for tuning in and joining me for tonight's performance of The Little Hours by Caridad Fitch, presented. I want to share a couple things before we get started. First, what you're about to see tonight is live. This is not a film or a pre-recorded broadcast. This is happening right now in a closet in my apartment, and a closet we custom built at CultureHub on Great Jones. Now, if you like what you see tonight, please feel free to give us a donation. Big or small, you can do so at any point during the show, directly in the chat, or through the donation link at our Fractured Atlas page that you can find in the description to the video. Any and all proceeds go directly to the artists whose work you are about to see tonight. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all things. All right, I think we're almost ready. Tonight's show will be approximately 30 minutes. If you want to say hi to Caridad, Katie Rose, Keith, Kate, it's a lot of Ks, or myself, please stay tuned after the show for a brief chat with us about our process and the work. Well, let's get started. I'm going to take a brief 1-minute break so I can get into places. Thank you again, and enjoy The Little Hours.
The last time we saw each other, I held your hand, late in the evening, near whisper of a night. We crossed our hearts and hoped for another one that would be better than this, better than this. And we wanted the words to match, said them loud enough, better than this, into the universe. We were like that then. Just kids. Foolish kids.
A quarter century has befallen us now. We're not kids anymore. Time has wrecked us both, and oh, how it's done its damage. We move through long nights held by other words, which offer little comfort, but we're good pretenders. We still say things as if we mean them. We hide in the dark and ache for tomorrow, as we may not see another tomorrow, so we hold on.
And in holding, our attention is ginormous.
We say ginormous because we love the way it sounds.
Our pretending travels across oceans sometimes even parts of deserts.
You said once you had an affinity for the desert and sometimes called it home while you slipped on your boots and tossed on your hat. Sly, like the lead actor in a movie.
You said you were always the lead, because all you ever wanted was to be the center of the story.
Is that true? I'd ask.
Oh yeah, you'd say with a wink and a tremor.
And then we'd laugh giddy with the desire for the center, because it always seemed to elude us.
And we know that from most people.
The center is where it's at. We saw it in an ad once. We really liked the way the phrase took up the whole page.
The center is where it's at.
Like it was all the rage.
Words like monsters, I'd say. And you'd spin me in your arms with a kind of elemental grace.
Yeah, sometimes you even sang a little song about everything you wanted.
Everything I want.
You had an awful voice.
Everything.
Dry and raspy and broken in all the wrong places.
I'd say no one wants to hear you singing with that voice. Put a lid on it, would you? And you'd laugh and say, I got style. You just don't understand it. And you'd carry on, singing the bejesus out of everything like you'd puncture the sky with the force of your lungs.
Everything I want.
You said the desert knew you, and you pretended to know it like the back of your hand. But you were scared, because the desert is freaky as all get out. It's a place where everyone but everyone in the whole world gets lost.
Hands held. Thoughts held. Nights that feel like open wounds. The desert is the place where we found each other, in the dunes.
You were drinking then. Tall glasses of everything. Straight into your vein.
Yeah, you wanted to obliterate yourself. Because being a protagonist was hard work, and it turned out you didn't like it. You much preferred being an extra, coming on the set, doing a bit of background, going back home to your dogs and chickens.
I'd watch you from afar, like now, across the echoes of space.
Where are you going, friend? How long till we see each other again? And are you still wearing that desert hat for old time's sake?
I could tell you this felt like a last goodbye, holding your hand. You're in bed. Words barely forming in your mouth. Swallowing was hard. Breathing was harder. You asked me to set your words down on paper.
Be my transcriber.
I bowed my head. There was a pact between us. There'd always been, even back in the day when we were rummaging through old records, actual vinyl records, in that store near the wine shop.
We recognized each other. We were kin, part of the same tribe, lovers, renegades, mischief makers, revelers, and sometimes, too, poets on our best days. Yeah, we were poets. And we wore the poet garlands and the beautiful freaks of the old days sold on a street named St. Mark's Place.
This was in New York, but it could have been in some other city. Stuff that happened in the cosmos we like to call the art cosmos.
It was fate. It was destiny. It was like riding a horse on the prairie. Wahoo! Pretending we were both cowboys when neither of us really knew what that meant.
We just liked the image, so we played the image.
To the hilt.
Cowboy poets under city lights, radiating our sexy backs to whoever hollered, hey! About the same time you got sick, I remember you called. We hadn't seen each other for many years. Your voice on the phone, dry, cracked, ornery. You were pissed off at yourself, at the battle you were fighting. And I could tell this was a battle you refused to sit still with.
I said, hey, like we did then. Hey, how you doing, kid?
Your voice lifted, mock angry. Who you callin' kid?
Ah, there you were again. Just like before. The old piss and vinegar vibe.
That same attitude that charmed off the pants off many a person back in the day when you used to have sex in closets, bathrooms, hallways, and yeah, even once in the kitchen pantry. You were all swagger once. You owned the world. It was beautiful to behold.
And I liked beholding you, my beloved.
Can we use this word now, beloved?
I like that word. I miss it. When I scroll through the dictionary, I settle on it sometimes and just trace my fingers over it.
B-E-L-O V-E-D.
I'm back in the cafe where we had our alone time together while jazz, real jazz, played in the background. And we could chime with Coltrane through the dead of night, hip to the wonder of our becoming real deal poets, genuine, bona fide, or just, people that like to make things and give a little beauty to the world. Can you come see me? You said through the ocean. It'd been many years since you had said those words. It was okay, though.
I had another life. I had another life.
We both had several lives between us.
There'd been a lot of loss.
So a lot of good, even when the world was in flames, and it was often in flames then, even worse than it is now.
We harbored goodness, put it in our pockets, created little avenues of joy, even if it was just between us, for a time. We knew the world was on fire. Some poet named Blake told us that once. And when we had both been romantics, we took Blake to heart and gave him our songs as a gift for being on Earth. This was the days where we couldn't know. You had lost your voice. And I was scribbling your thoughts into a leather-bound journal. When they come get me, don't let them shed a tear, you hear? You hollered inside my head. I wrote the words, no tears shed.
But inside, I knew you wanted to say something else. Something about how you missed the really old stories, the ones from before Christ.
The ones in these old stories before Christ, there'd been kind of a democracy that some people said worked wonders if you were a man.
It's strange how the demos of democracy lingers with this facade, the male facade, the cis-male facade of everything's all right, when we know, we must know, and we do know that the demos way back then was made up of all sorts of people that didn't have a voice, were barely even seen and hardly given a place for their stories to tear through the bite of night.
Let's not, please.
The beloved aches.
I know we need to go there, but please, tonight let's not. Because my heart is raging and I just need some whiskey to calm me down.
When we roamed the streets near St. Mark's, back when St. Mark's was St. Mark's, we thought about St. Mark.
The real one, who was born in North Africa and died in Egypt. His symbol was the winged lion.
Oh, we like to pretend that there were winged lions all over the village, and sure, yeah, sometimes we saw them.
Because St. Mark was the hustler cruising down the street, and Miss Honey doing her thing, and the sweet girl standing on the corner of Avenue A waiting for her rosary beads from the viejito, who always used the word losida with an awfully long I.
Side. Swinging the word with all the strength his viejito-ness could muster.
Low rider, we countered, chiding the viejito warmly.
Low side.
Low side.
I sell you rosary beads for $5, blessed by the Pope himself.
Sometimes we pretended we were Catholics so we could talk to the viejito in our broken Spanish, while others laughed at his broken English. The viejito would tell us stories about how Losida was, and we'd tell him stories about the wonders of St. Mark.
Before long, we were sorting out what sort of benevolence would be granted us when we reached the pearly gates. The viejito said all you needed was a vial of holy water and a prayer sung in Latin to make it in.
We said our Latin was rusty. Holy water was hard to come by.
Well, the viejito would smile, pull out a basket of vials from his cart.
This, my friend, is the holiest agua, from the holiest of places, deep in Achaia and the heart of Jerusalem, sacred city with too many wars fought and are still being fought for sad and miserable reasons. But for just $2, you can have this vial and a ticket to heaven.
We may have been two electric wonders on the rise, but the truth was, we didn't have $2 between us at the time.
We thank the viejito for his wisdom, and then at night under the stars at the far side of the bower, we lit our art for all the sinners.
At the crack of dawn, you let out a shout. It rings through the house. I'm with you now, close to your bedside, because I fear the worst. I have been writing your words down in a leather-bound journal. The paper bears the imprint of my hand. Sleepless, sweaty, not so gloriously wrecked. I've been trying to make out how you want the world to remember you, but really this is about how you remember yourself and how I remember you. You shout again. Your shouting reminds us that this vigil we're holding, that we have been holding for all of these little hours, may come to an end. Today, though, is not the end. But we quake in fear nonetheless. You got a big personality, I said.
You putting that in your book, they said?
It's your book. I'm just putting your words down, I said.
Like a medium, they said?
Like I got a table and I can do some spells. The thing is, it's true, I can do spells. My people taught me. Or maybe the hustler angels down in low side have taught me.
Sometimes all my people come together in my head, and I just call them my people to save time. Because you don't want to do the whole genealogy table right now.
Oh, not now, when you're shouting the bejesus out of everything, inching through your veins.
I walk down the street and do some chanting. Something about the fire and the wrath of the poor.
I did the same kind of chanting once in a park near the walled street where the money rained down for the select few.
Chanting's been my superpower in Spellland. Today I'm chanting for you. We're not lovers anymore. We've been friends longer than we've been everything. And in a way now, after all this time, we are like kin.
We can read each other's minds, which is why you asked me to write down your words as if they were mine.
Because we have the kind of trust you people have.
We've seen the uglier side of ourselves and lived to tell it. Just like the words in that pop song. Sometimes we like pop songs because their cheesiness is hearts. Insert emoji heart.
Today's spell is about making it through.
It's a hard one because it takes the kind of mojo that's been missing from the world for a while.
Raise my voice in the middle of the street.
One more day.
I feel like a soldier in that old, tired musical, the one that talks revolution, replicates neoliberal capitalism from its lungs.
Yeah, that one.
Anyway.
One more day.
Prayer to the heart. Prayer song.
Insert song, but not one from that musical. One day. Before you go into the brilliant narrow, 1,000 songs of gentle, 1,000 signs I'll borrow. To you the world, to you the rain, upon my lips a sweet refrain. Give me now my angel fire, the steely path of our desire. We are but the lonely few, upon this earth we seek our due. Give me now my angel thumbs of Elysium sounding near. Rage on, rave on, this you'll hear. When we're blessed, rave on to me.
I want to words and air. Goodness will radiate.
It's been hogging all the space, and it's getting like there's no chance for anything else to.
Even how you've been filled feels like a part of the hate wheel, but it's got nothing to do with it.
So.
Song, prayer, spell time. trees shimmer in the breeze. We'll be home soon. We're sitting on the front porch of an old house that is not ours.
Into a peculiar rhythm of inevitable turbulence.
We shrug, we sigh.
We try to remember what we used to fight about. Once we had so much ardor inside of us, fighting seemed like the only solution for anything.
We bit things.
Huh?
We bit through things.
Did we?
We bit through life. In the front yard of the old house that is not ours, you let
Look out in the distance like you always used to, even back in the day, looking at some place none of us could see.
It's been a long while since we did this, just being together.
I'm trying to remember what this used to feel like.
I think they called it love, you say.
Maybe it's time for a drink, I offer.
You look at me.
It's high time we stop being tied to one another. It's high time we drank 12 bottles of whiskey like we used to and truly bit through life.
But instead, I reach out, sliding my hand into yours like we're a pair of kids. A home movie flickers in the night sky. It's you, back when you were roaming the earth. Flash of a smile, strutting a pose, swinging your arm, shying away from the camera, yet loving its love. There's also you when you were a child, maybe 5 years old or 7, carrying a pail down to the marsh, naked as the day you were born. You're on a mission. You exude determination. The light falls on your back. It's a good day, a warm day, filled with hope. When I was 10, dreaming of putting the record on, I would make up in the living room after I pushed all the furniture aside and made a stage. I had those kind of dreams then. I was different. Everybody said. I didn't care what people told me. I knew dreaming these kind of dreams mattered, especially because most of the world had seemed to have forgotten what dancing felt like or what it could really do. Stage, the neighbor said. Yeah, I replied. They turned away. I set the vinyl record on the turntable and placed the needle on the first groove of the first track of the first everything. Oh, yes. This is the way it goes. This is the way I dreamt it. Of course you can make a stage. You can make one anywhere. You just have to push everything else away. It's amazing.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. So thrilled to have you. So you just saw The Little Hours by Karadaz Fitch, and this is Theater in Quarantine. Now, we're going to have a little talk back with the creators of the piece. Ooh, I'm just also going to shutter this giant projector that is in front of my face. That's a little better. I'm also going to turn on a light. Ah, gosh. Is that better? That's better. There we go. So I'm going to hop into Zoom and bring everyone in. This piece was presented by CultureHub and La MaMa. Theater in Quarantine has been in residence this year and has just been so thrilled to be able to work with these two amazing companies. And so thank you to Billy and Maddie and Mia and Songmin and Dee and Jean and everyone whose names I just omitted. So thanks so much again. Okay, I'm trying to remember names as I log into Zoom. And now, we're going to even be bringing in Keith, who is at the Culture Hub studio. Passwords. Why password protected? Great. And I am going to totally need a pair of headphones, but I'm using my headphones right now. Ha! We didn't prepare for that. All right, I'll grab my other headphones. And then I'll mute myself, and hopefully that'll work. Yeah, we'll see. Everyone's giving me the thumbs up there. So, putting in the correct audio input. And here we are. Allow me to introduce the team behind The Little Hours. Katie Rose, would you mind making some introductions while I dig up a pair of headphones?
I would love to. Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Rose McLaughlin. I'm the co-creative director of Theater in Quarantine. I also choreographed this beautiful piece. And we're just so happy to have you here. I'm noticing that the feed is a little choppy for the talkback, which it always is, and that's just sort of one of the things that happens here. So just think about this as a choppy audio play in this moment. Thank you all so much again for coming. We'll go around and introduce ourselves. Let's start with Karadad. Will you introduce yourself, please, and tell us what you did? Yes.
I need to unmute myself first.
You
Hi.
do.
That's a helpful, wouldn't it? Hi, Karadaz Fitch, and I'm the writer of The Little Hours. So that's what I did.
And what a good job you did.
Thank you.
Keith, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Keith McDermott, and I had worked with Josh before on another play, and I got this call from him to do this. I'd been watching his Theater in Quarantine for a while, and I'm thrilled to do it. It's a new world for me. The clock is, but it's
We're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
Kate.
Hello, hi. Kate. I'm the sound designer and composer on The Little Hours, and this is my second Theater in Quarantine show. I also sound designed Blood Meal, but I've worked with Josh and Katie Rose for 10 or so years on and off. So it's been a while. Yes.
Well, we're so happy to have all of you. Josh is still looking for some headphones, so I'm just going to jump in. Friends, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Would love to hear. We can just like chitter chatter for a while. Josh, no headphones.
I don't think you can hear yet. Oh.
Yeah, you're still getting set up. That's totally fine. I would love, Karadad, if you would talk a little bit about like what inspired this piece. Yeah, if that feels cool.
Yeah, totally cool. Oh my heavens! I've had on my laptop several documents with the title of this play for a while now, and they were all kind of different stories. So the title was haunting me, and then I really wanted to, and then it sort of crystallized in my brain, and I really wanted to, I wanted to write about friendship, and I wanted to write about a long friendship, which is something I'm trying to think, maybe I've done it once before in a play, but certainly not for a long time. I also wanted to write about artists, and I wanted to write about part of New York that used to be cheaper to live in, that is no longer so cheap to live in for artists. And so what that does to sort of the ability to live what one would call a bohemian life, and looking at the idea of bohemia. And then I also wanted to write about the act of writing itself, who owns whose story, how does that work, and what happens when you transcribe. I'm interested in the acts of transcription and translation and transliteration and how those kind of become a different body, kind of different artistic body. And so that became kind of like I know that sounds very heady, but sort of, I'm sorry for being so heady about it, but a kind of like artistic thread for me to cling on to in terms of the structure of the piece, because it's sort of moving in and out of time, through time in a kind of, meander and spiral kind of way, as time works.
Yeah. Time, and also like nostalgia and memory, which is one of the things that I find so fascinating about this play, is that it to me it works the way a memory does, where like if on paper it's linear, but when you're thinking back to something, that it just sort of spirals and curly keys a little bit, which I feel like you managed to articulate so brilliantly in this piece. Somebody asked in the chat, Emily asked in the chat, have you considered,
Hi, Emily.
have you considered this with two female actors?
Yes, Emily is a former student of mine, FYI.
Amazing.
A wonderful writer, FYI. It's very open, in the writing, because I never say. So yeah, so it could be two women.
Cool. Gwendolyn said this piece seems to be about intimacy in a kind of a 1980s to 1990s New York City vibe. So interesting to do during a pandemic with social distancing. How did you stage it? Man, Josh, this would be a great question for you to answer. Josh is still having issues. I'm just going to text him. Do you want to talk about staging this piece? He's going to do it. He's going to come in. Sorry, friends, we're having some technical difficulties. Keith, I would also love for you to talk about staging this piece. How did we stage this piece?
Well, we made enormous changes at the last minute. To do with the pandemic, we were Josh, for the first time, was going to have another person in the same closet. We could do this in real life. We've both been vaccinated. And then you all decided to put us in two different. I don't know if you could see, but when I go like this, it would be like talking to Josh, because his closet, in effect, is filmed right on the other side of me.
Well, so first off, Keith and I know Keith from a couple of years back when Keith directed me in a production of the Flow Tones, a Jim New piece at and so I knew Keith and knew he was a village local. We were looking for someone who who did feel, of a slightly older East Village generation. And yeah, so in some ways it was very intentional, this like straddling an 80s, 90s East Village vibe with now. And in some ways, for those of you who were in the neighborhood during the past year, it's amazing how shifted and changed and started to feel a little bit, maybe not entirely like the old days, but a little bit more like the old days than it has been. And so anyway, that's where we started. And in some ways, I looked at this beautiful text and was like, oh, it's a love note to this neighborhood that I live in. And so yeah, Keith is right. We started with a whole different version of this piece over and over again. And the more we read it, the more we heard Keith reading it, the more it entirely in my voice. And so that's where this more shared performance came from. The text itself, I mean, in its original form, is just a beautiful series of call them songs or scenes or whatever you want, I guess. But anyway, so in terms of how we divided that, that became sort of the essential jumping off point to this version, which we did very, very quickly. Kate, actually, would you talk a little bit about that weekend where you and I sort of started improvising off one another?
Yes. Yes, when we made the decision to split it between the two voices, so Keith and I had done a really lovely, which was actually my first time in someone else's apartment during the pandemic. So anyway, it was wonderful to go hang out with him. So we did a recording session where we actually recorded the whole play, and then we kind of spliced the lines together. Track that we used to, we sort of used it as a map and built scaffolding for this piece. So all of the sort of like transitional shift of improvisation. So Josh and I spent a weekend kind of sending each other material back and forth, like, cool, like, let me make this thing. So once we came back together after that weekend of improvisation, that for the piece, but it was a pretty delightful way to work. Yeah, just sending material back and forth.
Yeah, and so brilliant. And that's also like Julia asked what the inspiration behind the visual design of the piece. That's where that session is where most of that also came together, which was so exciting. Josh, do you want to talk briefly about the way that you designed everything that we saw?
I don't know if he can hear us.
I think he's, not getting your feed.
Oh, is someone asking me a question?
Yes, I just texted you.
Oh yeah, because I'm just actually nodding. I can't hear a thing except Keith. But
you're so cute.
I'm nodding,
it's so
and
cute.
Occasionally Katie Rose is sending me a question on text.
Yeah, I can repeat to him.
Yeah, of course we can talk about it. So the visual design, of course, I mean, is something we were, as soon as we decided to make it a two-closet piece, obviously we were very interested. Jean Garcia, who's a member of the Culture Hub team, went out and did a bunch of filming of St. Mark's Place, and that was something kind of from the original idea. And then when we decided to make it a two-closet piece, that still became the centerpiece of the entire feel of it. with like a little black and white filter, a little green grunge punk suddenly starts to have a Ramones, Sex Pistols kind of CBGB's kind of vibe. And so yeah, that's sort of where we were sitting, which is fun. It's a type of texture and a type of style we haven't played with very much here. And you know, it lives in a type of nostalgia, but it's a different type of nostalgia than we've played with before. Oh, good, huh? Yeah. It's
Yeah, it's always, the stream's
jump
always
in.
choppy.
We're having some stream issues. Those is what I hear, which is not unusual for the 8 p.m. talkback. For some reason that we have yet to figure out. Katie Rose?
This is wild. One would think that we could hear each other and like communicate, but no, Josh can't hear me, which is hilarious. So Andrew says, I love the way the visual language of the design intersected with the text and the choreography, also the shifting light in the model room. So lovely. Yeah, Josh is just a brilliant, brilliant human being. And it was really exciting. Also, you know, Cardad wrote some dances into the text, which is always a treat for me, which is so great to just like have that written into a piece. Yeah. I'm wondering if anyone, I want to do something not typical, which is I unfortunately want to end this early because we are actually having some pretty extreme choppiness that I want to make sure we solve for the 9 o'clock issue or for the 9 o'clock show. Oh, you can hear me now.
Yeah, Songmin routed me.
Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Songmin and Deandra from CultureHub back behind the scenes running everything and making but early so we can solve some of these tech issues.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's
but
a
I'm
good
going to force
idea.
you to do the sign
But I'm going to force you to do
because
this
you've been doing so well.
Great. Please, if you can, encourage people to come to the 9 o'clock. Stick around. If we didn't answer your question, come back or ask them again in the chat. Thank you again so much for donate if you can. You can donate in the chat. Fractured Atlas helps us keep everything running. Upgrade our computers, all of these things. Again, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to everyone here that you can see, and thank you to all the people behind the scenes. And thank you so much for coming to the Little Hours. Have a lovely evening, everybody.